All right, folks, it is August of 2025, and the summer doldrums are officially canceled. While everybody is about to go on summer vacation, the CMMC ecosystem has experienced the busiest month ever
Yeah.
in the saga of CMMC. More stuff happened in the month of July than I can remember happening in any 30-day stretch of this whole story. We're closing in on 300 officially level 2 certified companies. Mega prime contractors have put their supply chains on notice that it's time to go. The phased rollout is just weeks away.
Yeah.
The Secretary of Defense, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, you name it, everybody is gearing up for the big day. And today we're going to talk about 5 things that happened in July that you might have missed, that you absolutely need to know about. Daniel, it was a crazy month.
It was absolutely insane. Like the very first thing that came out, I saw this on LinkedIn, and my apologies for not remembering who posted it, was this like Lockheed blog. I'm like, what is going on here? So we have the Lockheed Memo, followed by Hegseth. And the same day, 48 CFR gets submitted for final OIRA approval. And then you keep going down the list all the way until recently, where the Army Corps of Engineers is giving final notices on SAM.gov saying, get ready, because it's coming October 1st. And then adjusted, it's coming around October 1st, basically.
Yeah.
When CMMC is going to hit you. And so in looking at all these things, just the compounding momentum, I just don't know how anyone can say that CMMC is going away. You have the Secretary of Defense, who's never really made that strong of a formal comment. I've never seen a formal memo about CMMC, like ever, from them. And then you have the primes, who that's where most of the supply chain lives under anyways.
Yep.
So what they're saying in a lot of ways carries more weight than what the Secretary of Defense just said.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's a pick your poison, spin the wheel kind of a situation. So if you're on the beach listening to the show, thanks. Make sure you like and subscribe. Put the Mai Tai down for a few minutes and listen to what happened in July. Because if you think CMMC is not happening or it's still up in the air or whatever, boy, do we have some news for you. Okay, first thing, the Lockheed Memo. Technically, it was on June 30th, but we'll allow it, right? Yeah. So on June 30th, Lockheed posts this memo on their supplier website. It's publicly accessible. We did a whole episode on this, and it's called Cybersecurity Maturity Model Certification Rulemaking Progress. This is the 6th memo that Lockheed has put out in the last 18 months, referring to what's going on with CMC rulemaking and what contractors need to do. Notably, every other Lockheed memo that came out came after a CMMC milestone. This one just showed up on June 30th, which was kind of curious. Anyways, the really key line from this memo is, this is Lockheed's words, by now, all DIB companies managing CUI should have fully implemented and be confidently meeting NIST SP 800-171 Revision 2 requirements. They talk about in their other memos that once the 32 CFR CMMC rule went into effect in December of 2024, that was the clarity that everyone was looking for. You've had the requirements in 171 all along. That's the recipe. So everybody get ready. And then they preemptively put this memo out because on July 18th, like you said, we got a memo from the Secretary of Defense. The first time that that's happened that I know of in the CMMC story. Beforehand, all the memos were Deputy Secretary of Defense, which are wonderful. Those are nice. Those are very high up memos, but this doesn't come from any higher in the building than from the SECDEF themselves. So Lockheed put out this memo, and then it didn't cause this cascade of events, but it was the first in this cascade of events. Like I said, we did a whole episode. If you want some more details on it, we'll link to it. You can read it. But Daniel, we immediately saw people responding, reacting, taking notice of this memo. Like, what did you see regarding this memo?
So immediately I start getting like phone calls from people or emails, right? Within 24, 48 hours of this going out. I'm assuming they did like a newsletter blast or something like that, because people were really concerned about it. They're like, Lockheed's saying I have to do this CMMC thing and that I've already done it. The main thing that stuck out to people in this memo was that the cybersecurity team at Lockheed will be assessing any supplier with unmet CMMC or NIST controls that they've submitted on their CCRA form. And so people are like, whoa, 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 whoa. Like, this is the first time Lockheed, at least in the 6 blogs that I saw that you pointed out, Jacob, that they're actually going to take action to assess things in a not met status. Now, that can go one of 2 ways. You could have heard from Lockheed on unmet things, meaning you're probably a critical supplier and they want to make sure you're on the right track. The other thing that could have happened is you probably saw that blog or got the newsletter and you haven't gotten a phone call and you know you have unmet things, meaning you might not be as critical as you think you are to their supply chain. This is throwing no shade at anybody, but Lockheed is making sure, just like every prime, that their critical supply chain is protected. They don't have enough cybersecurity bodies to assess every single person for unmet controls. They probably have, 20, 30, 40, 50,000 suppliers and subs in their network. They probably don't have a team that can do that, right? And so they're going to focus on the people that are critical in nature. So just be aware, if you haven't gotten the phone call, that's probably not a great sign on where you are in the pecking order at Lockheed. On the other side, if you have gotten the call, that's a really good signal saying Lockheed really cares about you being on the right track to be CMMC certified. Yeah. And that was the other thing. They said, be prepared to be assessed and certified at the very bottom. And Boeing, we'll talk about that in a second, says similar things in a quiz that they produced.
Yep, absolutely. Well, talking about clear signals, like I said, right after, like 2 weeks later, after this Lockheed memo, we get this memo signed by the Secretary of Defense themselves. So on July 18th, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of Defense, signs a memo that says, that's called Enhancing Security Protocols for the Department of Defense. And in this memo, he says, the Department of Defense will not procure any hardware or software susceptible to adversarial foreign influence that presents risk to mission accomplishment and must prevent such adversaries from introducing malicious capabilities into the products and services utilized by the department. Fine statement, totally makes sense. So how are we going to do that, Pete? He says the department will fortify existing programs and processes utilized within the defense industrial base to ensure that adversarial foreign influence is appropriately eliminated or mitigated. To do so, the DoD CIO will leverage efforts such as the Cybersecurity Maturity Model certification. End of story. He lists off a bunch of programs. He lists CMMC first. The SECDEF lists this program first in the list of things that they are going to use to accomplish this very critical mission. If you need any solid evidence that this is a priority for the department, if you haven't listened to any of the podcasts that we've done in the past telling people, hey, this obscure DoD memo means this is a priority. Hey, this verbal statement from the DoD means it's a priority. It doesn't get any more black and white than the SECDEF memo. It's signed by the Secretary of Defense. It is the first CMMC memo signed by the Secretary of Defense. It literally cannot go any higher for DoD priority.
Now, Jacob, I know that people have been concerned about, CIOs moving around and things like that inside the DoD. What's nice about this is it doesn't address a person to resolve this.
Right.
It addresses the office of the DoD CIO, whoever's sitting in that chair.
Correct.
And so
it doesn't say, hey, Katie, or hey, Joe. Right. It says, hey, person who is DoD CIO, go do this, right? Yeah.
And you've got what, 14, 15 days to figure it out and get back to me if there's any issues?
Yeah, for sure. So you can definitely check out the memo. It's definitely a big deal. There's a lot of context around why the memo was issued, but the main takeaway is when they list the things that they're going to do in order to address this problem, CMMC is the first thing that they list, and it's coming from the boss man. So this happened right after the Lockheed memo. Okay, great. We got a Lockheed memo. We got a SECDEF memo. Big deal. You might be saying to yourself. Yeah. So later on July 22nd, that was the other shoe that dropped, and the 48 CFR CMMC final rule got sent from the Department of Defense over to the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs for final regulatory review. We did a whole episode on this as well. This is the last step before publication of the 48 CFR CMMC final rule and the start of DoD's phased rollout, where they will put CMMC requirements into defense solicitations and contracts. The most conservative ETA for when that will begin is between October of 2025 and February of 2026. We talk about in the episode why we think that. There are rumors and speculation rampant in the ecosystem right now that it will be early October of 2025. But rest assured, this is the last thing that had to happen before the phased rollout begins. It's a huge deal, and it explains why there was a Lockheed memo and there's a SECDEF memo, and then the final rule gets sent over for final rule red tape rulemaking things. And now you've got 3 points to draw the line that says CMMC is right around the corner. This is a huge deal. Like I said, we did the episode. We are now weeks away from the start of the phased rollout and seeing this second and last final rule.
Here's the interesting thing with that. In the order of things that people have talked to me about external to our organization, because we're kind of in an echo chamber, you could say, right?
Yeah,
it's the
sure.
Lockheed memo, number one. Then they might have heard the SECDEF memo. And then most of them do not know that 48 CFR happened.
Right.
So in daily conversations, it's just interesting to see the sphere of influence that most of these companies live in. They live with the prime.
Right.
And then when you tell them about 48 CFR, then they really start freaking out. But now with the whole Army Corps of Engineers thing that we're talking about next, like that's really putting people on notice.
Yeah. So if you didn't hear about the rule getting sent over because you didn't like and subscribe, please like and subscribe. We talk about rulemaking all the time. If you didn't hear about that and you didn't hear about SECDEF's memo, and for somehow you didn't hear about Lockheed's memo, you might have seen the one from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They put a supplier notice on sam.gov on July 31st. All capital letters in the title, InfoSec alert, notice to the Defense Industrial Base, special notice CMMC program. They basically in this notice give a general overview of what the CMMC program is. All that language in this little notice is taken directly from the CMMC policy at 32 CFR 170. Just Google that and you'll see where they got the language from. This is the final language that went into effect in December of 2024 when that rule went into effect. But at the bottom, they say preliminary guidance indicates that October 1, 2025 will be the go live date for the CMMC 2.0 program. However, the actual official date is still pending. That is true, right? I don't think they know that it will be October 1st based off what we know about rulemaking, but this just goes to show you why people are speculating it could be early October. It's going to be soon, right? It's going to be soon. They're like, hey, the preliminary date is the 1st of October. They go on to say, once this rule is final, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers solicitations will specify the level of certification required for performance under the contract, direct all questions relating to the CMMC requirement for any action issued by the Army Corps of Engineers to the contracting officer and contracting specialists on the publication announcement. The reason why I think that this is significant is this is showing you how it's going to play out. There's just going to be a sam.gov notice. There's going to be a Lockheed notice. There's going to be a memo, and it says the rule is final. Here we go. If you got any questions, talk to your contracting officer. There isn't going to be an airdrop with crates full of cash and keyboards and Summit 7 employees, right? Like there's just going to be a memo. They'd be like, okay, we told you, here it is, here it's coming, now it's coming, here it is, now it's around the corner, here we go, and I hope you're ready. And that's all it's just going to be, these like cold, calculated sam.gov notices. Like this is what it looks like.
And I really thought that this was going to stir a lot more attention. I think it's still kind of warming up to people because I haven't heard anyone on the calls that I've been on reference this. Not saying they haven't been made aware, but I have a feeling that this happens and we start seeing more sub-agencies and, start really coming up. And it's like, okay, the Navy said something. I think that's going to really build some strong momentum kind of downstream here. Because here's the thing, like, the main people paying attention right now, and I hate to say it this way, are the primes that can afford to pay attention.
Yeah.
And that's really it. The subs and the 10 and the 15 and 50 person companies we talk to, like they've heard from Lockheed that this needs to happen, but that's about all the guidance they've got. Mm-hmm. Right. And they're like, we don't know what to do. But then you have all your BD team looking on sam.gov for that, sweet new solicitation. And then they're smacked in the face with CMMC. What are you going to do then? Right.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be really interesting as things like this continue to progress, because I don't think the Army Corps is going to be the last one to post a notice.
No, absolutely not. Army Corps was not the one I would have pegged as being the one that's going to put the memo out first, but it doesn't really matter. If you want an example of what it's going to look like, this is a great example. All right. Last but not least, number 5 here. This it's a memo, but it wasn't really a memo. Yeah. Tell us about this, Daniel. It was an email that went out from Boeing regarding CMMC. What happened?
Yeah, so there was an email that I just got in my mailbox one day. I guess I subscribed to their list, and I was looking at it. I'm like, oh, this is a CMMC memo, and it's their supply chain newsletter. And I was looking through it, and they had quoted Brett Cox, who's the principal CMMC and DFARS lead at Boeing, saying, hey, there's not enough C-3POs. Make sure to get in line, get in order. I did just record a podcast with him that will be releasing, I think, next week or the week after.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. But it's one of those things where I started reading it, and then there was a quiz. And I was like, oh, I got to take the quiz.
Who doesn't love a good quiz, you know?
Love a good CMMC quiz. So it's a 10-question quiz, nothing too crazy. But in it, the main thing I saw that stuck out to me was it said that CMMC level 2 will likely require certification, was like one of the answers that was the correct answer. And it's just kind of, you can see kind of the attitude of the prime saying things, but not directly saying that you have to be certified, right? They're kind of like hinting around the certification thing, right? And a lot of that's based on the memo that came out earlier this year about basically showing things in the Defense Organizational Index of CUI, like control technical information is going to require certification, while other CUI will require self-attestation unless the UD discretion, right? So it's just interesting to see all that. But Boeing did put out a newsletter to all their suppliers telling about CMMC, explaining the urgency of getting in line now, and then a quiz that, again, highlights you will likely have to be certified by the end of it. So, yeah, it's crazy out there. There's so much happening, to your point, Jen, earlier. I mean, it's been 30, 45 days, and this is what's happened. And CMMC hasn't even, quote unquote, happened yet.
And it's the middle of summer. It's the middle of summer. Normally we're in here talking about rulemaking updates. Literally last year we called it the summer doldrums episode because there was nothing going on. And here it's like we had to fit a bunch of stuff. We had the Lockheed Memo. We had the SECDEF Memo. We had 48 CFR going over for final regulatory review. We have the U.S. Army Corps notice on sam.gov. We have this Boeing email with their weird quiz thing going on. You know, like I said, pick your poison, throw a dart. If you're on vacation, if you haven't been paying attention, if you're waiting until the kiddos go back to school, pay attention now, because this thing is happening. Everyone is gearing up for it. So at this point, nobody's going to be able to say that they got caught flat-footed. Right. Thankfully, we got to the end of July and stuff stopped happening. Technically, there was a 6th major event. There was yet another False Claims Act settlement by a defense contractor for non-compliance with their DFARS cybersecurity requirements. But for the sake of time, we're going to talk about that next week. It's August, coming up the end of this month, August 26th. We got Secure the DIB free webinar. All the big brains at Summit 7 are going to be on there sharing information about what we do, how we do it, our success stories. Daniel, you're going to be presenting at Secure the DIB. So come and hang out. It's free. We'll do the registration link below, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys.